What's happening, people? Welcome back to another episode of Park Lane Podcast. Just myself and Dave this week to talk to you about all things Tottenham Hotspur, episode 109, for those of you that keep up to date with what episode and week we're on. If you are new to the show, don't forget to click the like button. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe as well. And also, if you're listening on any podcast platform, leave us a comment and also a 5-star review. Dave, how you keeping, mate? You well?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. It's good to be back. I've obviously haven't been here for a few weeks. Had some stuff going on, obviously, privately, and but all good, mate. I'm very, very good, very happy at the moment, and kind of wish I was on after the City game, but here we are. I'm here after Tottenham being back to Tottenham.
I know, man. It was me and Wes last week, and it was a good game to talk about. But unfortunately, we've got 2 draws to discuss this week. Could have been, could be a lot worse, but also could have been a hell of a lot better. We will discuss all of those games and get all your comments read out. So if you are in the chat live, make sure you're writing everything in. Johnny has said, "Our buddy, late again, like Tottenham's game when they face lower teams than themselves." Ha ha ha. Evening, Johnny. Evening to Jay. Evening to Wes's mum. Wes isn't even on, and his mum's still in the chat.
Evening, Wes's mum tuning in when he's not even here. I like that.
Exactly.
You're more than welcome.
Right. Let's touch base first of all and talk about Vicario quickly, Dave, because the news came out after the City game that he fractured his ankle. Played 60 minutes of a game with a fractured ankle and still kept a clean sheet against City. He played really, really well in that game, but I just don't understand how someone fractures their ankle and then no one knows until after the game.
Well, let me tell you, mate, coming from somebody who has fractured their ankle, I have no idea how he even stood up. It is agony, mate. Like, it kills like you would not believe. So it must be a hairline fracture or something where he just felt a little bit of discomfort, because when I did mine, I could not stand up, no weight at all. So fair play to him. That shows he's got a bit of heart about him, which is hopefully a good sign for the future. But he's going to be a miss, and I don't say this too lightly, because I've been critical of Vicario in the past, especially with his, not dominating the box, not being, commanding enough, that kind of thing. But as a shot stopper, he's unbelievable. So he's really going to be a miss. I don't like the fact already that, we're talking about not signing a replacement in January or a temporary solution because Fraser Forster's good enough. I mean, let's be honest, he's not. He's of age now. He's an older man. He's not as nimble as he once was. That concerns me quite a lot. Obviously, we've got a fair few injuries at the moment. Again, it's like reminiscent of last season. But last season, we got a lot of injuries when we were on really, really good form. This season, we're a bit up and down. It's probably the way you describe it. We're the most bipolar team in the league. So I can say that, by the way, because I have bipolar, by the way. So, but we are the most bipolar team. You go from the highs of beating City 4-0 to drawing with Roma and drawing with Fulham and the inconsistencies. So I am surprised I say I'm surprised that we're not looking at getting anyone else in, but then we're Tottenham, so I'm not that surprised.
Now, technically, that isn't 100% true that we're not getting somebody in, from what I've heard. What Ange said was that we weren't going to sign a goalkeeper on a free transfer.
Okay.
Then Romano said we won't be signing a keeper at all, which isn't true, apparently. So, look, if we're going to sign a keeper, 100%, we have to go for Kelleher. I think he's
100%. I was about to say the same thing. With Liverpool getting that Georgian keeper, Mamadashvili, even Kelleher, I think if we signed him, would be our number one.
Yeah.
I think he's that good, and he gets a lot of stick as well. And I don't really know why, because I genuinely think he's an outstanding keeper. So, I think that's the route we should go down as well. Luke, we're in the same agreement again, Luke. Ange, we're in agreement with now Kelleher. Let's hope it comes true.
I know, mate. But this is the thing, right? A lot of people, especially people that originally watched the show when we had Liverpool fans on and stuff, will know I've got a lot of Liverpool friends, and they were saying to me, well, he won't come because he wants to be number one. But this is the thing, right? he can be number one quite easily. Like him and Vicario are probably at an extremely similar level. He's probably even slightly better due to the fact he's played even more games. When he's had to come in for Alisson and whatnot, and also cup games he's played for Liverpool. He's played a lot of high-profile games. And so, as you say, within a matter of weeks, or by the time Vicario is back, he could already be number one keeper. And then it's to try and stop him. And it kind of goes back to what you were saying about years ago when we talked about Harry Kane.
Yeah.
It was like, we need someone to compete with Harry Kane and not play as second fiddle. But, as you say, what we're like. And I don't really like to be pessimist. But, the likelihood is we'll sign someone of lesser of Vicario. And he'll just
it'll be a case of Daniel Levy says Brandon Austin's good enough for now.
Yeah.
And unfortunately that's just the way Tottenham operate, and I don't want to get into all that because I'll be here all day, but it's frustrating because like I believe in Ange. I get frustrated by how inconsistent we are, but that isn't all on him. That's on the players not doing the job that he's asking them to do. But I genuinely believe in him, and I genuinely believe if he was backed properly, as he wanted to be. I don't buy all this crap about, Bergvall and Gray were good enough and he didn't want to sign anybody else. There's no way he wouldn't have tried to sign someone else. But Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, as a football club, we work within a certain budget and constraints. Managers, work within this system that Daniel Levy wants, signing young upcoming players that can be sold for future profit. Personally, I just feel like with someone like Ange, if you get the players he wants and he gets the system over that he wants to get over, we've seen what this club can do when they play how Ange wants them to play. Yeah, you can say City are on a bad run, but it's still Man City. No one else has done that to Man City this season. So you got to believe in the way he plays football. But I do get, and I'm not slagging off anybody that wants Ange out, because the inconsistencies are frustrating. They are so frustrating.
Well, do you know what? I was actually going to talk about this at the end, mate, but you've kind of like segued into it, so I'll bring it up now. One of the things I wanted to discuss was about, let's use Chelsea as an example, right? Because the Chelsea manager and Ange Postecoglou, I believe, play a very slightly similar system in terms of how their players play. Yet Chelsea seems to be a lot more consistent, and their players seem to know the system and play at high tempo and a lot quicker. And he's been there half the time that Ange has. Now, I'm not suggesting for 1 second that he's a better communicator or he's, a better coach than Ange Postecoglou. My point of it is would this team have, because it looks to me like I still don't think they're playing this system properly. They're not. They're too slow. I still think that they just don't seem to have it fully on lockdown. It could be because we're missing 5 first-team players. But anyway, my point is it due to the fact that they have spent a lot more money and they have a higher caliber of player? They've
got a better squad than we have. You look at Chelsea and everyone laughs that they spent, what is it, $1 billion or something like that. But they signed Lavia, they signed Enzo, who isn't really doing it, but they spent $100 million on Caicedo. That midfield in itself dictates how they play. Dictates, the engine room, if that makes sense. We can't decide between Sarr, Biss, Bentancur, etc. You look at their defence, their centre halves, they all know what they're doing, and if they lose one, they've got 3 more that can come in and fill the role. We have to rely on Ben Davis, who's been a great servant, but he's old and he's not a centre back, So I just feel like as a whole, player for player, man for man, they have a lot better options. And also the competition in that squad will mean that the players know that if they don't get it and they don't do it, they don't play. You look at Mykhailo Mudryk, how much they signed him for fortunes, put him on a 9-year contract. He can barely get a look in the team because the players ahead of him, Madueke and players like that, who we all screamed for Tottenham to re-sign, they understand the job they have to do and they execute it. Whereas I think with Tottenham, there can be a case of complacency, because players will say, it doesn't matter because there's not that many players who can come in and replace me. There's not that much fierce competition in the squad. That midfield, you look at, Kulu's been on another level this season, but you look at even up front, Solanke doesn't really have any competition because Richarlison spends more time in the injury room than anyone on the pitch. The wingers, or Timo Werner isn't going to scare that many players who are playing ahead of him. So the problem is we don't have enough competition The players we do have to come in are people like Mikey Moore, Lucas Bergvall, Archie Gray. They're all young players for the future. They're not now players, so there's no pressure in that sense. However long it takes them to get it, there's no pressure. So I think that is it, and also their owners back their club, and if a player doesn't work, they just sign another one.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just generally what they do.
It was just something that I've seen nobody discuss it on social media, but I think it's like the most direct comparison that you can probably bring together. And
the thing is, they have Cole Palmer, who is world class. We do not have a player in our squad like Cole Palmer, and that's a player who can change a game in an instant himself. You know, he scored again today, didn't he? You know, so we don't have that one individual. Like Kulu stepped up, don't get me wrong, but Cole Palmer's on that next level. He's potential to be world class. So we don't have that one player. We don't have a Bale anymore. We don't have a Harry Kane anymore. You know, we have a good squad, but we don't have anybody that you would say, oh, they're one of the best in the world at where they play.
Yeah. No, and I get you. And like, it's really frustrating because, you know, you can see how this system can work. But our biggest problem is that we cannot play against a team that sets up like a lot of teams have done against us. Like, I'm not going to say Ange has been found out, right? Because I believe that his system can work even against a low block. But teams have realized all they need to do is low block. We get too many people, around the ball. We lose possession because we're not good enough, and then they counterattack us and score. I would say 80% of the goals we've conceded this season have been like that. And I don't believe it's necessarily down to the system as such. I believe that the players aren't good enough to play.
Do you know why I don't buy into that narrative that he can't play against a low block? Because he was manager of Celtic, who are probably the best team in Scotland. Every team that played Celtic would have played a low block. Every team. The difference is that those players understood exactly what he expected of them. You know, you look at Ange on the touchline and how pissed off he gets, and you just look at his face and he's saying things like forward, 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 screaming at them because they're going backwards. He's like, no, forward, forward. It's like they haven't quite got it yet. And I think that's one of the reasons that he dropped Maddison for a while, because Maddison was turning back and, playing these safe balls, and he doesn't want that. He wants progression consistently. And I think we are Tottenham, so we get a lot of hate and a lot of stick anyway. It doesn't matter what style of football we play. Somebody is going to not like us because we're Tottenham. You see what I mean? They're gonna criticize us one way or another, or use Ange as who we are, mate. And turn it into a meme or whatever. But I just feel like if we had more depth in terms of, when I don't just mean more players, I mean more quality players to compete with the players that already play, he'd get what he wanted a lot quicker.
Well, I think it showed today, didn't it? And we're not really kind of going on script as usual, but I quite like it. Like Sergio Reguilon today was on the bench, and yet he's like a player that even there are youngsters who get in the squad ahead of him, and our squad is so bare right now that Ange has to effectively shoot himself in the foot by even putting him in the squad. Yep,
and that's what I mean. You understand why clubs laugh at us, and it does frustrate me because we aren't ruthless in the transfer market in that sense. We keep players for too long. Yeah. Ben Davies had a great game against City last week. There's no doubt about that. But he's another player that has been here too long. We shouldn't be having to rely on Ben Davies to come at the centre back because Romero and Van der Ven are injured. Yeah. You should have 4 good centre backs who can play no matter what. So I just feel like I said to you, I'm praying to God that Amanda Staveley gets on the phone to some rich prince somewhere, and they invest and take a big chunk of Tottenham and look to buy us as a whole. Because I don't like Daniel Levy. I'm grateful for what he's done for us as a business, but on the football pitch, it's now we've done the business side. It's really time to kick on. And with a manager like Ange, you back him. When Pep Guardiola is coming out saying how good of a manager he is, then you back him.
Yeah. And that's kind of going back to where we're talking about low blocks is I was talking to a lot of people today in a different group chat, and I was saying the reason why Spurs beat City is simple. City try and play football against Spurs.
Yep.
And Spurs, especially Ange's system, that's what they want because that's how they're going to be able to get at them. As soon as teams sit back at the moment, and of course, if they had better players, we could break it down. But as soon as teams sit back against us, we're screwed. Like today, most of the time we were screwed because, they're sitting with a back 4, back 5, and they get, bunch in the midfield, drop the wingers back into wing backs. And so then it's near impossible, especially with players like Son, because he needs space and he needs, to be able to run onto the ball.
Yeah.
And so unless we get those creative players, that are able to just pick pockets and be able to pick passes out of nowhere, we had to rely on Timo Werner today. He had a great assist for the Johnson goal, but we do need more. And whilst I actually am getting to the point where I am getting frustrated because we have a manager who we could succeed with, I believe, but I don't think we will, based on the fact that the people in charge.
It's Tottenham, mate. It's rinse and repeat cycle, unfortunately. And I just want to touch on Jay's comment really quickly, Luke. He said, "Would I want to sign James Trafford?" Not in a million years, mate. The only goalkeeper we need to get, which me and Luke said, is Queven Kelleher.
Yeah, I think Kelleher should be the only option that Spurs go for. But I don't think Spurs go for him, to be honest. I think
no, I don't either.
I don't even think we sign a goalkeeper, to be honest. I
don't either.
But the only thing that I'm concerned about, and this is from a moral standpoint, and we can argue with whoever we want forever and ever and ever. Bear in mind, I'm off to Dubai tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? So it's a kind of like stupid statement in a certain sense, but like I just want certain type of people to.
Yeah, you don't want the oil giants.
To be honest, mate, I don't want Saudis owning Spurs. That's pretty much like we can make an argument for like other areas of the world, but like I just have a real issue with Saudi Arabia. So like that's my thing. But in terms of morality, moral reasons, like you could make an argument for like why you shouldn't like Daniel Levy, why you shouldn't like
Well, I saw a thing the other day where Simon Jordan came out and he was talking about the Saudis, and the problem with the Saudis is they can't afford. That's my wife. Hello, darling. They can sport wash any sport they want because they never run out of money, and that's the thing. So it doesn't. I always think you look at what they're doing, the boxing, the live golf, and even City, for example, and Newcastle, when they're buying into all of these things. Why wouldn't you jump on that gravy train? Yes, it is. It can be immoral, and it can be. You can have your opinions on the way they run their country and the way they treat women, their human rights, and things like that. But they are sport washing every sport. So it's the way I kind of look at it is, I want the best opportunity to win trophies. I've watched this club lift 2 trophies in my lifetime, and they were 2, as everyone calls them, Tin Pot League Cups. And we came so close to the cusp with the Champions League, and we didn't do enough to get over the line. So I want somebody who's going to back the team in the right way, back the manager in the right way, and give us what Tottenham fans, I believe, we deserve, and that's glory. I'm sick of being the bridesmaid. I want to be the bride for once in a while.
Yeah. It's so difficult. It is so difficult. I just don't know if I care enough to like, and I don't mean this like because I obviously like have a YouTube channel for Spurs. Like I don't mean it like I don't care about Spurs, but I mean like, am I willing to risk what I believe internally for
glory?
Yeah. Probably not, but
look, I get that.
If it happens,
that's a chat for another day, mate. That's the chat for when it happens, because I believe it will happen.
Yeah, actually, whilst we talk about
Wes, he's here.
I am indeed.
Made my head really big then.
I know. Sorry, let me just try and find one that works. That'll have to do. How are you, mate?
A bit deflated, I have to say. A bit of a contrast to last weekend, but yeah. Not long got back in, so I thought I would jump on and join you guys.
Yeah, amazing. There's definitely people in this chat pleased to see you, your mum especially.
No, I thought she was pleased to see us, Luke.
Probably.
Quick one on that one. Whilst we were talking about it, we've actually been on a bit of a tangent, but we were talking about Saudis owning Spurs, like as a potential like topic to talk about. Where do you sit on that front?
It doesn't kind of bother me, to be honest.
Yes. Wes is on my team for once.
Like it. I mean, it doesn't bother me that realistically, Daniel Levy owns it or is chairman. Like, it doesn't bother me that ENIC own us. It's almost like that. Well, as long as they are putting their money in the right places, for me, that's kind of how I see it. But yeah, I think it's one of those where if you're a big sort or claiming to be a big sort of top 6 club, you almost feels like you need to have like almost like an Arab stakehold within your club to actually be able to achieve anything, because they're the buggers that have got the money.
They're the dominant forces, aren't they? That's the thing.
Yeah. So they're the buggers with the money. So they either need it to avoid some tax somewhere along the line and just go, accountant's gone, just buy a football club, that'll sort you out. Get rid of a few 100 million here, there, and everywhere. But Saudi owners doesn't particularly.
They're the only ones that are rich enough to buy us, anyway. Let's be honest.
Yeah, and I think obviously we're seeing it with Newcastle a little bit up and down with the the financial restrictions, PSR, FFP, all that kind of stuff. So they still got to operate within that anyway.
But we don't have that because of how and that's one of the good things Daniel Levy has done is that things like the financial restrictions won't affect us for I think we saw a stat where we could spend 450 million a year for 8 years before we get restricted. You know what I mean?
Imagine bringing in new regulations anyway, aren't they?
Yeah, so that makes things a little bit complicated, but like I say, it doesn't particularly bother me in terms of who owns us, who doesn't, because I think we've got ourselves into a state under Levy where I think the football club is likely to be sustainable. So, my children should, if and when I have any one day, will probably likely to be able to go to Tottenham. My grandchildren are more than likely to be able to go to Tottenham as well. So I think that is also a big thing, because I think we've seen in the past where other clubs have been taken over by different owners and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden the owners have just not really cared, and then within 3 to 5 years the plans that these owners have had have gone down the toilet, and the fans are wanting the owners out, and there's protests left, right, and centre, and all of that kind of stuff. So like I say, it doesn't particularly bother me in terms of who's in charge.
No, fair enough. Callum's decided to join us as well. So it went
evening, Cal.
Just being me and Dave tonight, and then suddenly this chat.
Everybody's on.
Yeah, made everybody join. But Callum, do you have any thoughts on that subject?
Well, to be honest, let's put it this way. I feel like shit. I've got flu and they've really fucked up my day. Let's put it that way. So, I mean, I think that's the easiest way to put it. No, it's such an arsehole situation because, like Dave said, the PSR levels, the financial stability and sustainability rules say that Spurs can do what they want, everything like that. We've got the money, well, the freedom to spend the money, but as a club, ENIC won't do it. And I know
unless it's to buy a golf course.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, well, if you want to do that, we might as well just get Donald Trump as our investor or something like that. He loves a golf course, so I mean,
this has the potential to go off tandem, Luke, quite quickly.
No, I will get back.
Donald Trump as well, man. Jesus Christ.
No, I will get back into it, but no, I mean the whole ENIC model. I mean, I know we had this debate, ENIC out, ENIC in, all that time ago, and we all agreed that probably a Saudi backer wasn't what we needed, but something.
No, I didn't agree. I'm all for Saudi money, mate. Give me that blood money. Give me that blood money and make my club win the Champions League.
Yeah, that's real great. We'll end up on an international court warrant. For
I don't care, mate. I'll be able to celebrate my Champions League trophy. I'll be able to show my kids it. You know what I mean?
But no, the whole thing is the club definitely needs that investment in their ENIC's leadership. Is all about commercial revenue now. It's all about the commercial and entertainment value instead of the football inside. And to be honest, today summed it up. I mean, we had 4 youngsters on the bench, I think. Olasesi, Lancashire, Hartnett, Bennett, and someone else as well, and a fucking youth goalkeeper, even though he's 26.
And Sergio Reguilon.
Yeah, that prick just seems to always stink the place out one way or another. I saw him on cam about once, and he looked like he just wanted to bite someone. That's how it looked. He just didn't look happy. And I mean, the whole idea of the bench and the game today was just wrong. It was just wrong from top down. And apparently Solanke actually turned up to the stadium and Dan just went, oh, you're feeling a bit ill, so go home. Just go home and enjoy yourself. And that's why Werner got his link. But I mean, these are Premier League footballers. They should be attuned to being able to a bit of football just if they're a bit ill. And all that as well.
There's the guy that couldn't come on the podcast because he had the flu.
I'm still fucking I'm still fucking here. He went home. So at least I'm here. At least I'm here.
25 minutes late, but it's all good. Anyway, let's move on.
I'll go to Dubai. Just give us a break for a couple of weeks. It'll be fucking peaceful. We'll boost the views of the channel. We'll get a new sponsorship, everything like that. Dave will take over.
Oh God, he's
and
still
it'll
going.
be the greatest coup in the world. Let's put it that way.
Hold on. There we go. Let's talk about Thursday night. 2-2 draw against home to Roma. Went so well to begin with. Obviously got a penalty really early on. And then we seemed to just flip into that like Spurs mode. When I saw us go 1-0 up early doors, I don't know if you thought the same, but I was like, here we go, like kick on from City, like exactly what we need to do. And then it kind of like went the opposite direction.
I thought the opposite. It was weird because I thought the opposite. I was like, oh no, I don't want an early goal.
I mean, I personally didn't think it was a penalty. I was at the opposite end of the ground, and I did not think it was a penalty, to be honest. But I looked at the Roma team, and I went, "How on earth are they not only mid-table but on their third coach of the season?" That Roma team on paper looks
it's ridiculous,
flipping outrageous. By the way, like Hummel's rolled back the years.
Yeah.
Solanke couldn't get anything out of him. And I thought that was probably Solanke's poorest game that I've seen him in because he just couldn't trap a bag of cement on Thursday, Dominic Solanke. And I think that killed us. You had Paredes, who was pulling strings, Kone covering every blade of grass. You had Dybala, again, sort of rolling back the years, showing
he should have been in a white shirt, mate, Dybala.
But yeah, I'm looking, and I think if Dobbix learnt the offside rule in Italy, it'd be unreal. His movement, especially for, I think it was the goal that he set up for Kone that was given offside. His movement for that goal was ridiculously good. And so, yeah, I'm looking at that Roma side and I'm going, flipping out, this is a quality side. I think Roma was one of those, though, where if it had probably offered us all a point before the game, I think we'd have all taken it. But then obviously to lose it in the manner that we did so late on, Basuma wanted to be 10 yards deeper than everybody else for some bizarre reason off the second phase of the corner. And I think that was the disappointing feeling coming out of the game.
He was probably on the balloons at half time, wasn't
he? Yeah, him on the balloons, Coot on the nose up. It's all been going on. But yeah, I think that was the disappointing thing, I think, for a lot of fans off the back of Thursday was losing it in the manner that we did and so late on, because I don't think, I mean, Roma had their chances, don't get me wrong, but then so did we. So, I think it was just one of them. Obviously, if we could have seen it out, it would have been a fantastic result. But yeah, I think obviously if Roma get their act together, I can see them potentially progressing quite far, not only in Serie A, but in this competition as well.
Yeah, Dave, I want to come to you actually and say, look, we have got 3 wins, 2 draws.
Yeah.
And now we're sitting with, we've got to play Rangers, Hoffenheim, and Elfsborg.
Yeah.
Like, as much as everyone says, like, Rangers, Ibrox, tough place to go and so on. Like,
we should win all 3 of them, really.
Yeah, they are shocking in the Scottish League this season. Third by miles, like. It's just a team we should beat, right? So looking at like the 3 games we've got left, we should progress quite easily from the Europa League.
I think so, but we're Tottenham, so whenever things are easy, we make it look really fucking hard. So whenever things are hard, we make it look really fucking easy. We're a backwards club in that sense. So I can see us being Tottenham, going the hardest game on paper. I think is Rangers going there and winning, and then dropping points to Elfsborg and Hoffenheim because we're Tottenham.
Yeah,
that's the sort of we all remember NS Mura.
Yeah, last minute goal that like in the last game that sends us like through on goal difference or something.
Yeah, exactly, scraping through by the skin of our teeth. And I believe that we should win this competition.
Yeah,
I think us and Roma are the 2 strongest teams in it. So I genuinely believe we should win this competition.
Yeah, and Jill will probably end up winning it. United.
Yeah, more than likely.
That's my honest thoughts. Okay, fair enough. Right, Callum, I'll come back to you now. I think you've calmed down. But let's talk about today's match. 1-1 draw against Fulham. Again, this time we did the opposite. I reckon of Thursday night, we didn't play that well. We did manage to get in front, once again couldn't seem to like hold on and get a win. What were your thoughts like overall on today's game?
I think we were extremely lucky to actually get a draw and all that. I thought Fulham were, for the majority of the game, maybe 65, 70 minutes, they were the best team going. And it's just, if Jimenez was the player that he was in the 2019 season before his head injury, when he got 27 goals for Wolves, I mean, he could have had about six goals today, and we should have been literally down and out by half time. If we'd have shown a bit of desire on the pitch, I thought we could have gotten something from it, but we was the victims of our own problems today. At defending, confusion at the back, no control in midfield, no out and out striker up there. I mean, Son was completely out of sorts again. Werner probably did one good thing in the whole game, and then couldn't skin a cat. Let's put it that way. After that point, Johnson was running up and down, but doing a lot of Lucas Moura stuff, running corners. And to be honest, I don't realistically think we deserved anything. And when we did go ahead, I thought, okay, maybe a turning point. But they equalised within about 5 minutes or 10 minutes. It's one of them. And then to go 10 men or down to 10 men, we didn't show any desire to go and win it. I mean, Harry Wilson literally could have won it for him about 3 minutes later and all that if he'd have cleared it, if he'd have got his feet right. So, I mean, Fulham, I know, are a really good team, and I was wax lyrical about them this year. I think they've had a really good season under Marco Silva. They've got some really good players, and a lot of the ex-Arsenal lads are doing the business for them as well, which is something that I would hate to have to admit. But today we just were toothless. We just had no plan B. And even when Kulu came on, I thought this was probably his worst game, to be honest, of the season. To be honest as well, there was nothing that inspired anything in me.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think we can be too harsh on Kulusevski, Wes, but looking at today's match, we really struggle, and me and Dave talked a bit about this earlier. Really struggle against teams that sit back and try and soak us up, and we really struggle to find those key passes. We always play player to player rather than missing out individuals and so on. I'm not blaming Son today either. Son cannot play up through the middle when we're playing like that. If we're playing Man City, we're a team that are going to try and be expansive against us. Definitely go for Son through the middle. But when you have a team like Fulham who are going to sit back, you'd have been better off playing Kulusevski up there, as trying to have a little bit kind of more hold of the ball and just play Son out on the left. But obviously he needed a break. Werner came in, he got an assist against City, so why not? He got another assist today, so you can't blame him too much. But what were your thoughts on today's game? Obviously,
can I just jump in first and just say one thing, Wes, before you answer that? Do you know what the solution would have been?
What?
Eberiti Eze, but that's a story for another day.
But does one player really help us? Does he really win that game for us? I don't think so.
Eze, he's somebody who can open the door, mate. Who can find, break down those tight barriers, make that run which creates the overlap. So
but Jerry can't even open a packet of beans, mate. So
he's probably disappointed that he's still at Palace, mate.
Well,
he's probably disappointed he's still at Palace. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Anyway, Wes, we'll come to you.
Well, then that shows him as a naive.
Yeah, I think for me, from my perspective, being at the game today, it was just a lot of safe passes, from when we're trying to build up play, from the back going into midfield, and it was there were probably, when whoever had the ball, there was probably 2 or 3 other passes that would have been better off, but our players just didn't want to play it. We were just very safe, very passive, saying to people around me today, all we need is just one player and one pass to risk the ball and almost play that dangerous pass. But then the second pass off the back of it, or the secondary action, whether that's a first touch forwards or a flick round the corner, that's what's going to open the game and potentially get us in. I think there was a few times second half where we tried little flicks around the corner. Sometimes it worked in terms of getting it to a player, but it didn't necessarily do much in terms of trying to open Fulham up a little bit. But yeah, I think that for me, the right-hand side today was just so poor. Like, I mean, Porro picked up a knock and then could barely move afterwards. So how he's bagged 90 minutes, I don't know. Completely, agree with Callum and with Brennan Johnson. I think he was awful. The game was crying out for Kulusevski, at least at half time. And I think Ange waited and waited to kind of get him on. And I think by then, I personally think Kulu tried to make a little bit of an impact on the game, but I think had he come on a little bit earlier, I think we would have probably seen a bit more of a benefit of him coming onto the pitch. But yeah, I think Son awful again. For me, I don't think he's performed well at all this season. And I think I've said this numerous times, but if it was me, I'd be looking to hook him in the summer.
Yeah, Matoma, bring Matoma
in. Because I think Son's path. I think he's finished. To be honest, I know he ended Carl Walker, and then Werner really put the nail in the coffin last week. But I think for me, Son's just not it anymore. And I think this is the last year where really we can command a half decent fee for Son as well. Should we look to move him on? I know there's talk of obviously triggering that 1 year extension, which for me it's almost like trigger it, but with the view to still moving him on, as opposed to triggering it to keep him there because we got this young Korean lad coming in.
You'd only like trigger it to make it a financial gain. So you trigger it to then be able to then get more value for him based on the length of the contract.
That's what I mean. So yeah, it's the triggering because then we can look to move him on, as opposed to triggering it to keep him around the place, because he's a good guy and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, today it was just really passive and no one wanting to play that risk. Like, you look at how many times we risk the ball against City, and you go in, flipping hell, like, you're doing this against City, champions, arguably one of the best teams in Europe, and then today it's just like, nah, we're playing Fulham who wanna just sit in and try and catch us on the counter, and yeah, it just wasn't good on the ball. I think Sarr did a lot of running without a lot of I think he ran about a bit, but didn't really have anything other than that. Like, there wasn't really much end product with it. But yeah,
there's a lot of smoke without any fire, mate. That's the best
way. Literally. I think, to be fair, I thought Dragishin and Davis looked pretty solid at the back once again. I think those two complement each other really, really well. So I think that was probably the only positive that I can really look at. I mean, Forster made a good couple of saves, but yeah, other than that, I think that was it. I think your doggy sort of huffed and puffed as well. He felt like, Mr. Wolf or whatever, huffing and puffing, but couldn't quite blow the house down. Do you know what I mean? So. Yeah. That's kind of my take on it. Really deflating.
I said before you boys jumped on that Tottenham the frustrating thing is we are the most bipolar team, and we put in a performance like we do against City where we like I said to Luke, it doesn't matter whether City are off form or not. Nobody's done what we did to City. So realistically, I don't understand how we can put in a performance like that and then a few days later we're struggling to break down a Fulham team. And this is the frustrating thing. And this is why I said, I don't hate anybody that is angry about Ange, but I just don't believe that we have the squad that he needs to implement the style that he wants effectively. Because the problem is when we take out one player from our starting 11, the player coming in to replace them isn't of the same ilk. So, it's not the same quality. So you're basically asking an apprentice plumber, for example, to come in and do a huge bathroom. So it's the same sort of thing. You're just asking someone to come in and do a job that they're not really qualified to do, and that's what Luke made the comparison at the start to Chelsea and said that Tottenham and Chelsea are very similar in terms of how they play. The difference is that when Chelsea take a player out, they replace someone with the same quality. So that transition.
Yeah, I think you could argue, obviously, when Chelsea do make that change within a player, it's a 50-60 million pound player, whereas you look at the bench today and it's like, well, not really a lot on there, and if we do need to change it, we're effectively bringing kids on.
Yeah.
You're asking Bergvall, who's 18, who's still getting used to the Premier League, living in England, all of that kind of stuff, to then go and win us a game. Like, I think our first 11 is pretty decent. And I think that could pretty much on any day beat any team. I think we've seen that across the season. But I think our problem is at the moment is almost like our backup players or our squad players are injured. So again, like today, it's no Solanke, so you'd want perhaps Richarlison in there. Well, Richarlison's injured. I think the game was crying out for Odegaard today, but he's injured instead of Werner. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's just the state that we're in. I get that other teams and other clubs have injuries throughout the season. That's why you have your squad and you need to manage it. But it just feels like it's all happening and it's happening at once for Spurs, and that seems to be.
Why do we have so many injuries so frequently, though? It seems like a common theme that we are the medical team pretty shit, or what? Because is it a training thing or
like level of training? Like
that's what I'm saying. We always seem to have 5 or 6 injuries. It's bizarre.
A lot of the things that Ange talks about is the fact that he knows that like our players will be able to play and continue playing and be able to play at that like level
intensity.
Game. He knows that like there will be a moment, and that's when you need to kill it, and like we will be able to perform to that level. I just believe it's like how intense training and everything else. And I don't know that for certain, but that's what I would say. Quickly going back to like what you said and kind of a bit about what Wes said about like why can we beat City and then we can't beat Fulham? Like as I mentioned earlier, City play against Spurs. Other teams don't play against Spurs. We do not have the level of player or the level of squad right now to be able to unlock that door, to be able to, as we're saying, find that killer pass. To be able.
And when the thing is, mate, we're never going to have that with the ownership we have.
No.
In general, unfortunately.
No, and I agree with that. I do agree with that. I still wouldn't sell my soul.
Give me that oil money.
But anyway, let's move on because we're actually now everyone's doing. We're actually running out of time. So let's go and talk about this week's games because I've decided for you boys that weren't here earlier that I'm going to allow the wheel this week to pick both of my scores because I'm doing so badly sitting at the bottom of the score predictor table that I can't do any worse than just letting a random wheel pick it for me because Dave.
Can we object to this? By the way, I'm not a fan of this. Like, you have to get your. No, because the wheel does bits for other people.
Wes, I'm just gonna say, last week's show, I jumped on the comments and put a score in, and it got ignored and vetoed for my wheel score, which has got me today 3 points. So thank you very much, boys.
That's why Dave's for the wheel. But no, for me, I think. Listen. We get our scores in. We have to do it that way. That's how I would do it personally. Right. I don't think we need to start chopping and changing just because the wheel is doing bits for others, Luke. And you're getting jealous because you're at the bottom. And
how does that table look, Luke? Out of interest.
Well, I'll do the table shortly. No, I'll do it. Do you know what? I'll do it now. Let's talk about that because these were the scores from the Fulham game that we predicted last week. So I went for a 3-1 win. Winnie went 3-3 draw due to the wheel. Dave went for a 1-1 draw due to the wheel. The wheel actually predicted 2 draws this week. So, yeah, it did do bits, Wes, to be fair, because they're the only 2 people that got any points. Because Callum went 3-2 Spurs. You went 2-1 Spurs. I did think for ages, to be fair, that you were going to end up getting all the points. But you didn't. And Dave ended up with 3 points. Winnie ended up with 1 point, meaning that the table now looks like this. Me and Callum are absolutely dying at the bottom of the league, 4 points. Dave's now moved up level with Wes on 7, and Winnie's gone 1 point ahead on 8. So fair play to you, Wes. You're the only person not relying solely on a make-believe score predictor. And yeah, you're doing not too bad at all.
He's joint second.
Joint second.
Joint second on goal difference.
On the fact that you haven't just cheated. Anyway. So let's talk about. We can go around and talk about both games together. We've got 2 Premier League games this week, so let's go through them both together. We've got Bournemouth, Dave, on Thursday night away, and then we've got Chelsea at home. The Battle of Ange Ball, as I like to call it.
I think both games suit Tottenham perfectly because Bournemouth and Chelsea both want to play.
Yeah.
They both like to play football. They like to, be expansive. I don't think either team will want to play a low block. Which will actually suit Tottenham. Bournemouth are more dangerous than people give them credit for. They got a really, really good squad, really, really good team. That Evan Nilsson, I really like the look of. I think he looks really.
Penalties, haven't he?
Huh?
He's good at winning penalties.
Yeah, I think he looks really good, mate. He looks like a very, very solid replacement for Solanke. Kluivert's obviously, scoring goals now. So I do think it's a dangerous game, but I do think that both games will play into Tottenham's hands. So I'm predicting wins for both games. So when you're ready for my scores, I'm happy to tell you. I think that...
You know what? I reckon this will be a good test of my theory about the fact that teams that play against Spurs will beat any team that tries to play against us.
Yeah.
So we'll see whether that will actually come to fruition. So as you say, I don't think Chelsea will sit back. I don't think Bournemouth. It depends how clever the manager is, really. Whether he says, "Do you know what? We'll change how we play."
He won't. They'll come out against us. They'll want to play.
Yeah, and if so, then we should beat both of them. But Wes, do you kind of echo the same thoughts, or?
Yeah, I think these two games are going to be really, really good games of football. Bournemouth are an interesting one because I think in certain games I think they're very much opponent based. So the teams in and around them, they really go after. And I think we saw that yesterday against Wolves. They went, right, let's go and press them. And obviously they got their rewards there. But I think against other teams and the so-called bigger teams in the league, they have that capability just to sit off and then go and, especially out of possession, then go and press at the right times. So it'll be interesting, I think, to see how Bournemouth do against us, whether they're going to allow us to have the ball or they're just going to go, sod it, we're going to come after you. The Chelsea game, I'm not massively looking forward to. It's a game that I hate a lot because I don't particularly like Chelsea at all. But I think, again, that one will be quite entertaining. So I think I'm anticipating goals in both the games. But I think they'll be both good watches, especially for a neutral fan. Whether that be the case for Spurs fans will remain to be seen, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Does anyone know, Callum? You're likely to know something from however much you look at it. But does anyone know the likelihood of any of our players coming back? When I say that, I mean it's likely Solanke should be back because he was just illness. Obviously, Decky should come back in because I assume that was just a rest. But in terms of centre backs, do they look anywhere near coming back? I saw Van de Ven was back training.
Yeah, Solanke's more likely from virus. Van de Ven's the more likely out of him and Romero. Romero hasn't touched the grass yet, from what I've heard, so he's more likely for Chelsea. If anything, I think Bournemouth will be too soon. Odebear and Ritchie, February at the moment. Vicario, March, what I'm hearing. Mikey Moore, most likely January at the moment as well. And Bentancur will be back after, I think, the game on the 26th. He'd have completed his suspension as well. So, I mean, options are light and literally even some of there's another respective injury to Archie Gray, which they're going to have to check for swelling on as well because he took a bad clatter into the leg as well. So good chance that he may be out for Bournemouth as well.
Right. So, yeah, do you know what? If we get Solanke and Decky back in and we have to play Dragusin and Ben Davis, I'm not too bothered about that. I really think, though, deep down that we need a new left back tomorrow because I don't dislike Udogie. I just think that there are flaws to his game, and defensively, I feel like we need someone that's more solid defensively. The one thing I don't like about Udogie, I don't really like him going forward. I don't really like him defending.
What do you like about him, Luke?
I don't dislike him as a footballer, but I just don't think he's that good attacking.
So what the fuck's the point of having him then? What's the point of having him then?
He's good to be around, isn't he? Good for vibes and
got cool hair.
Huh?
Got cool hair.
Yeah.
Luke's pulling out. He's a good lad, isn't he?
Yeah. I don't.
Yeah, but we said that about Basuma. He was a party animal, and then look, he's gone and done balloons. So I mean, fucking hell, he ain't really pushed on this season. So another redundant waste of space.
No, do you know what? It's not like he isn't a good fit for this side. And, I don't think he's bad defensively or bad offensively. I just don't think he's brilliant at either. Quickly before we go to Callum's thoughts on those two games, what do you think about him, as a footballer?
I really like you, Doggy. I think there's parts of his game that obviously still need a bit of polish and a little bit of work on. But I think for me, especially today, it was Porro's defensive work that was really alarming because he let sort of Smith Rowe, Iwobi, Reece Nelson, whoever's on that left hand side, literally just breeze past him. And I'm literally watching it and I'm going, "Are you winding me up?" Like, if put it this way, if my under nines defended like that, I would be asking questions. Never mind a professional footballer, regardless of however much he's getting paid to do his job. Like, just as a professional footballer, like, I'm there going, Jesus, what are you doing? But yeah, I like you. I think he's quite a powerful runner as well. I think the thing for me is, like, when he does get going, it's just to carry on. I think we get it a lot where our players sort of have space to run into. They go ever so far and then want to chop inside and kind of slow the game down a little bit, which is annoying and frustrating. But yeah, I think there's definitely been flashes with your Doggy at times this season that he has replicated the form of last season, but I don't think he's been anywhere near like the consistent levels of last year. But like I said, there's been flashes where he's done really well, but I think other times he hasn't been as great.
I think he makes good runs, and I think that he shows to the ball a lot, and I think he's decent with his feet for a defensive player. You don't see him when he goes forward and he does get that ball behind the line. I don't think he's going to get that cross in that's going to mean that we score. And if somebody was running, let's say Salah was running it in 1-on-1, I wouldn't then be like, 9 times out of 10 he's gonna win the ball, and that's where I find
But then Salah rips everyone apart. Do you know what I mean? And has done in the league for however long he's been in the Premier, and has done it in Europe in the Champions League and everything else. So Salah's capable of doing those types of things to anybody. I think it's more when he's up against players that he should be able to deal with defensively. I think sometimes he switches. I think last year it was almost like he had to get a yellow card before he settled down. Your Doggy. So yeah, I think that side of his game has improved a lot. I don't think he's been carded as much as he was last season, but yeah, I think he's one of them that's like a key component in the team. But then, having said that, the way the fullbacks were in the last 2 games compared to what they were against City is completely different. So the fullbacks were ridiculously high, playing as almost 2 number 10s as we used to see, and didn't happen against City, and yet we got success out of it because we actually had a bit of room to manoeuvre the ball and play. Whereas when they are that high, it's almost like the midfield is just and the top end of the pitch is so congested, we can't find anything to kind of get a little bit of a rhythm going.
Yeah, I get that. Callum, coming to you now. Sorry, I've been waiting.
Quickly, before you go to Cal, mate, I've got 4%, so I'm going to have to drop off. Okay. I want to get my score in before I have to leave.
Right, okay.
But, 3-1 Tottenham.
Yeah.
Chelsea 3-2 Tottenham. And just quickly before I drop off, Fat Pod lads are back on Wednesday at 9:00, so make sure you tune in. But boys, I'm gonna have to go before my battery dies. But good to see you all. I'll be hosting next week, so I'll see you then.
See you later.
See you soon.
See you, mate.
Later, Dave.
Right. Callum, what's your thoughts on both Bournemouth and Chelsea? Do you agree with Dave that you think it could be play into our hands?
I'm a little bit on the fence with this one. I'm kind of like Wes. I think that the fullback issue is going to be a very big impact on both of these games and all that. I mean, I hate this inverted bollocks. I just don't. I think we play too narrow, and it just allows other teams to overload us on the outside, like Fulham did today with Iwobi, Wilson, and other people like that. So, I mean, when you think that Fulham have got players like that, Bournemouth have got Cliver, who's an absolute the backside on the wing, the same as Samayo as well. So, I mean, our fullbacks need to be on the outside, not sitting in with Basuma, Sarr and Maddison as a flat 5 and all that in the area. And to be honest, Chelsea's fullbacks as well, they'll rinse you alive. I mean, I don't know who they're actively got at the moment, but I mean...
They come inside as well, don't they? They come inside as well.
Kukurea is the big one. They like to invert him and get him playing as a double pivot into midfield. Chelsea, to be fair.
Yeah, and I mean they're playing Caicedo as a right back at the moment as well. So I mean, and he's had a quality season. So I think that we're going to get a shock this week. To be honest, I think maybe we might do something at Bournemouth, but I hate Thursday night kickoffs, especially going down to the south coast because it's such a difficult place to go to at the best of times. And I think, like everyone said, Bournemouth are in a great vein of form. Iraola's really playing great football with them. They've got a great squad, and there's some players in there who, if we brought them in, would be them great backup options for Spurs and all that as well. If you had Solanke and Evan Nilsson, if you had Cliver and Son, if you had Semedo and Brennan Johnson, just say, for example, Zabarnyi, the centre-back as well. I mean, I wanted him when we was meant to be getting him a couple of years ago. He's class. The same with Hulson as well, who they got from Juventus. So, I mean, there is so many good players in there, and they have the options, and they don't have the injury list we do. So, I reckon we're going to be looking at maybe we could scrape a 2-1 down there. That's the best I can see us doing, and I'm bricking it for Battle of the Bridge again, or Battle of whatever you want to call it, against Chelsea, because we never get anything against them. I have no hope whatsoever. And I mean, Wes, are you going to the game?
I'll be there. Of course I will be. Not missing that one.
Yeah, so I mean, literally, you're at least going to have physical pain. I'll only have mental pain.
Right.
So,
let's get down to the score predictions. Does anybody want to go first before we get into it?
Go on, Cal. You can go. I'll let you.
Yeah, because to be fair, Callum, you've already given your score predictions. Do you want them to carry on, or do you want to come up with some new ones?
let me just see what I went for. Bear with me. It was. I'm going to go 2-1 against Bournemouth, and I'm going to go. I'm hoping for a draw against Chelsea, so I'll go 2-2.
Nice. Little Desmond. Love that.
That's the best I think we can hope for that.
Okay. 2-2 draw. Bear with me.
Yes.
Right. Let's do Winnie next.
Oh, God.
Well, we all know that Winnie did not put his scores in, as far as I'm aware. Did anyone see if he did?
No.
No. So let's go with Winnie. Bear with me 1 second. I've just got to do a bit of technology. Here we go. So we can get the wheel up. So here we go with the wheel. These are for Winnie. We'll start with the Bournemouth game to begin with. So it's away at Bournemouth. So the wheel is saying, I was hoping that was 5-0. He's going 2-1 Spurs. That's an absolute treat for Winnie. 2-1 Spurs for Winnie's first result. We're going to need to come up with a better system, aren't we, Wes?
Yeah, definitely. I'm not having this. This is ridiculous.
And then Chelsea. Everyone begging for a 5-0 Spurs win in this. 3-2 Chelsea. Oh, yeah, 3-2 Chelsea. What do we think about that?
Well, that could be likely to come in as well. Jeez. What happened to
I was going to
proper
say
outrageous scores like 6-5 and 12-8 or something out like that? That's what we need to
The
go
only
for.
thing I will,
scores.
the only thing I will say, right, is that, and this is a bit far fetched, but do you remember when we played Chelsea and Sonny scored that unreal goal where he cut him from the right hand side and skinned everyone and scored?
Yeah.
That was the same weekend as the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, but I think it was the Saturday night game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same weekend again as the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And that was the last time I went to the Grand Prix. And I'm also going to the Grand Prix again. So that suggests Spurs are going to win. That's my logic. And
that is the weirdest conspiracy theory I've ever heard of, by the way.
Do you know what else I do, right? Because I've got IPTV. So, so I watch all the games. But on there, you get a list of all the teams. And you can obviously choose Spurs when you want to watch the Spurs game. But obviously, Fulham comes first. But I will never click Fulham. I will always go all the way down to Spurs because I just think if I click Fulham, we'll lose.
How has that actually worked out for you, though?
It's not.
If we look, If we lose against Chelsea and your prediction is absolute bollocks, I'm calling customs and telling them you're smuggling stuff. So you are literally getting stuck in a foreign country. I don't care. I will do it.
There's that, mate. Anyway, right. Wes, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I don't know if Callum scrolled up on our group chat and nicked my scores, because I actually put my scores in because I didn't think I was going to be on tonight. And went for 2-1 win against Bournemouth, and went for a 2-2 draw against Chelsea.
Right.
So,
and then
yeah.
2-2 draw.
Yeah, obviously I anticipate us conceding, especially against Bournemouth. I mean, people will say likelihood will be a set piece. I actually think it will be a mistake from us trying to play out from the back, especially with Evan Nilsson. If anybody watched him, obviously against Wolves yesterday, they'll know that he's a really good person to press from the front. And yeah, Chelsea, listen, I mean, as long as we don't lose, I will be happy, because I think this game gets to me more than Arsenal, to be honest.
I know it's like it's one of those ones though, isn't it? Because we've beaten like Arsenal a few times. I would say, like, I don't think it's, for me, it's not like about Chelsea. It's just I dislike Arsenal more.
Well, I always think that like Chelsea have a point to prove, like against us for some like mad and bizarre reason, and I think they always sort of turn up against us. Like no matter how bad or how out of form or how good Chelsea are at any given stage or any given time, they will always show up against Tottenham. Little bit similar to West Ham in that sense. Obviously, I know we took care of business against West Ham earlier on in the season, but more often than not, they tend to sort of raise their game, especially when they play us. So yeah, it's a fixture that I there's a part of me that obviously looks forward to it, but there's also a part of me that hates it as well at the same time.
Yeah, I do completely agree. Right, so I'm gonna. Do you know what? I actually wrote down Spurs to lose, but I'm not gonna.
I was gonna say, are you feeling all right?
No. Do you know what? Like, I'm just losing so badly in this league. I nearly went against my own moral compass to never back Spurs to lose. I had written down 3-0 Chelsea, but I've changed it to 3-3 because that was the only thing I could come up with that I thought had 3 goals for Chelsea in it. I just think they'll beat us. I genuinely think that they will beat us. I hope to God that it doesn't happen, and I hope that we do get a victory or at least a draw out of this game. But we will see. In terms of the Bournemouth game, I was going to go 3-1, but I'm also losing so badly I've had to try and change it. So I've gone 3-0 Spurs. Let's see if we can get that. So I'll go through everyone's scores in the chat in a moment. But just to round up the scores, I've gone 3-0 Spurs. Winnie's gone 2-1 Spurs. Dave's gone 3-1 Spurs. Wes has gone 2-1 Spurs. Callum's gone 2-1 Spurs. And then the Chelsea game, I've gone 3-3 draw. Winnie's gone 3-2 Chelsea. Wait, hold on. Yeah, Dave's gone 3-2 Spurs. Wes and Callum both gone 2-2. That's correct, right?
Yeah, because Callum nicked my scores from the group chat.
Right.
Yeah, not once, Cal, twice.
Let's shout out some people.
There you go.
Chat. Yeah, Thomas knows what's up. 3-0 Chelsea.
There you go. Twice.
Who's that? Johnny's gone 4-4 against Bournemouth. Johnny doesn't care because he's an Arsenal fan, so he can write whatever he likes. Where's your mum has gone for a 3-1 win against Bournemouth away. Draw against Chelsea.
Fair play.
Must be what's happening in the Wes McGrath household. Must be just discussing score predictions all day long.
What we do.
Yeah. Right, Thomas has gone 2-0 to Bournemouth. So he reckons we're going to get beat by Bournemouth and then we're going to get beat by Chelsea. Is that what you mean, Thomas? That's a bad week for Spurs. Jay has gone for a 3-1 Bournemouth win and then 2-2 draw against Chelsea. Why is everyone predicting us to get beaten? Unless you're all writing it down wrong. Yeah, Johnny went 4-4 and then...
or because Johnny we've been wank for the last week. Maybe. Yeah. You never know.
And Johnny also went for another draw against Chelsea. He's gone for 2-2 this time. Big up to Ronnie as well in the chat. Thank you very much for tuning in. Unfortunately, we are about to finish. But rewatch the whole show. Do appreciate it. And do you know what? Our favourite bloke from Leicester commented the other day. You know David Clark?
Oh,
David,
how is he?
Yeah, I might as well give a shout out to him. Big up to you if you're rewatching. It will actually show whether you've rewatched the whole show. Because if you've got to the end, which it is now, and you've not left us a comment, then obviously you haven't watched the entire thing. Anyway, he commented to say, sorry, I've been tuning in, so I thought I'd just treat you all to that. But he is rewatching the shows. Ronnie's gone for a 3-2 Spurs win and then a 3-1 Spurs win. 6 points in the bag by the end of next week.
Well, that's a lie because he's put Tottenham 1, Chelsea 3.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we got 6 points.
Oh, yeah.
God, you're blind.
I've gone with
You're
what I
fucking
think
blind.
in my head. Ronnie, you are a Judas, and that's all I'll say about that. Anyway, look, still the highest scorers in the Premier League at this moment in time. All isn't too bad with Spurs, although things could be a lot better. Let's just hope by this time next week things are better. Unfortunately, I will not be here. I'm off on my holidays, but you know, a few other people, hopefully, fingers crossed, should be here. If they're not, sorry about that. We'll see you in a few weeks when I am back. But Callum, thank you for coming on, mate. Lastminute.com. But how can everyone find you?
Nah, cheers as always, mate. Just Callum Stubbs 97 on Twitter, and hopefully a better week than this week. Let's put it that way.
Nice one. And Wes, how can everyone find you?
Yeah, thanks for having me on as always. Twitter's at Wezo10, unofficial Moose Dembele fan account, as people know by now. Instagram's at Wezo32. I won't be at the Bournemouth game, but I will be at the Chelsea game and the Liverpool game in particular. So I may not be on here in the next few weeks or so before Christmas. So Merry Christmas to everybody. I'm going to get that out there now, just in case. I'm also on the Hotspur Huddle with Holly and Nelson on a Wednesday before the Fat Pod lads. So yeah, tune in and make sure that you are obviously watching what we're up to and getting up to as well. But yeah, that is pretty much a wrap from me, to be fair.
Well, so Johnny has said, if you take 6 points from these two very good teams, I'm going to switch to your fan base and I'm breaking up with Arsenal. So you heard it here first. It's written down. That's a written contract, as far as I'm aware. If we get 6 points this week, Johnny will become a Spurs fan. Anyway, you can check me out at Luke_Park_Lane on Twitter if you want. But more importantly, make sure you are liking, subscribing, sharing, telling all your friends, your mothers, your grandmothers, your brothers, your sisters, everybody in your school, everybody in your workplace about Park Lane Podcast. Because your support, we really do appreciate it every single week. As Wes said, the Fat Pod lads will be back on Wednesday night. Fingers crossed. Who knows? Hopefully. And we will definitely be back next Sunday, 7 p.m. for another Park Lane Podcast. So thank you all very, very much for tuning in. Do appreciate it. And we will see you all soon. As we always say, a massive come on, you Spurs.
Go on, you Spurs.
On